To solve by completing the square, we need to remember that when you complete the square, what you get is some factor squared, and that equals a perfect square trinomial when we multiply it out. For example, before we do this, if I have x plus 3 quantity squared, if I multiply that out, I get x times x, it's x squared, x times 3, that's 3x, 3 times x, 3x, and 3 times 3, which is 9. And then these two will always come together. So then I have x squared plus 6x plus 9. If we were to go backwards and start with what we call a perfect square trinomial, we could factor this and break this up into a 3x and a 3x. And then when we solve by grouping, we get x and x plus 3 times x plus 3. So our x plus 3's come out to be x plus 3 over here, and our GCFs come over here, and we have the same number. All right, sorry, that announcement happened. So then this is x plus 3 times itself. So it's x plus 3 quantity squared. So this is what we call a perfect square trinomial. And the idea behind completing a square is completing the square is finding this perfect number to make a perfect square trinomial. So for example, if the question said x squared plus 6x plus what would make a perfect square trinomial, you would have to figure out that it's 9. So the question is, how do we figure out that it is 9? So the answer is always the same, that 6x gets broken into 2 equal pieces, so 2 halves. So I'm going to take this number and I'm going to split it into 2, including the positive sign. And that gives me a 3. I like to say, okay, that number is going to go right here. So plus 3, whatever variable you have, in this case, x. And the 3 gets multiplied by itself to give me my 9. So that's how you do completing the square. But then to solve by completing the square is a little bit different. So we can look at our notes and we can see that, first of all, the number we need right here would be a positive 8 divided by 2, a 4, not quite a 4, it would be a 4 squared, so that's a 16. And that would turn into y, because it's a y variable, plus 4 quantity squared. Here we have a negative. I'm going to use a thinner pen here. So a negative 12. So I'm going to take negative 12 divided by 2, and that is negative 6. And that's kind of our rock star number. Take whatever variable you have and you bring this down here, square it, and then when you square it, you always get a positive. So positive 36, that perfect square trinomial will factor down to this factor squared. Then you would use solving by square roots to finish the problem. So let's try one of them. So first, you want to get your variable terms on the left. Then you want to complete the square. And then lastly, we will solve by square roots. Okay. So first, I only want variable terms on the left. So I am going to get rid of this 16. So I'll add 16 to both sides. And now I have x squared minus 6x, I'm going to leave a space, equals 16. Now completing the square consists of saying what number should go here to make it perfect square trinomial, but it's an equation. So whatever you add to the left side, you got to add to the right side. Now I need to complete the square. This is almost the same as the one that we did earlier. I'm going to take that middle term, including the negative number, and I'm going to divide it by 2. And whatever I get there is going to go right here. So I have a -3. That's going to go right there. I have x's, so I'll use x minus 3. That quantity squared will equal whatever's over here. So I got to figure out what's going to go there. So I'm going to do -3 squared. Please be careful. A negative squared is a +9. So then I'll add 9 to this side also, and I will get 25. So I kind of did this side all kind of together. And then whatever you add on the left side, you got to add on the right side. Now I can solve this equation using square roots. So this is the equation that I'm using, that I'm solving, excuse me. And I already have my whatever squared alone. So I will take the square root of both sides. And I'll get x minus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 25. That's a perfect square. So this is much like one that you saw on solving by square roots. I'll add 3 to both sides. And I'll get x equals 3 plus or minus 5. So that could be 3 plus 5, or x could equal 3 minus 5. So x could equal 8, or x could equal -2.